What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for a UFC Fight Night happening in Moscow this Saturday. It's the first Russia card for the UFC. And looking at the entire card, it doesn't look that strong, right? But whenever we say that, these are the cards that deliver the most. So make sure you guys watch this card. And when you actually look at it, there are almost as many fighters without actual pictures on the UFC website than there are with pictures. It's kind of crazy. But what does that tell you? There are a lot of unknown fighters that maybe will be future contenders. Maybe some good prospects, maybe someone you'll be a fan of later. So we're going to start with Tyson versus Desmond Green. Now, Tyson is one of the biggest prospects of the UFC, in my opinion, and especially the lightweight division. Now, he hasn't been fighting too often because of visa issues. 3 of his last 7 fights have been scrapped because of these issues, and this can hurt his game. He doesn't fight that often, and you have to fight to get better at fighting, and he isn't getting any younger. Now, Tyson also missed weight by 6 pounds. And what that tells me is he's not going to be drawn out in the fight because it seems like he might have tried to cut weight, lost time, wasn't responsible enough to schedule it, and just ultimately gave up on the weight cut because he knew it wasn't going to happen. That's what I think happened. Which means he will probably be at an advantage in this fight. He's going to be bigger than Green coming into this one. But looking at the skills and looking at the styles between these two, Tyson is a Muay Thai fighter. Powerful. Speed and power. That is what this guy represents. He has excellent movement. His balance is insane, even coming from his grappling background. He's always in the position to land a powerful strike, an overhand right or even a head kick. It doesn't really matter. A knee, whatever it is, he's always in position. He's usually a pressuring fighter, but in his fight with Felipe Silva, he was able to stick to a game plan and look to counter, which is something he doesn't normally do, but it shows that he can adapt to a strategy. And that makes him very dangerous. That makes any fighter who can do that very dangerous, especially with the power that he has. He has an excellent overhand right. He has an excellent left hook, which can follow up into kicks, good leg kicks, good high kicks, round kicks in general, no other variety. But his takedowns are also there as well. He has excellent takedowns. And when he takes opponents down with his double legs, he is looking to pound on his opponent until the finish, right when they get on the ground. And that is what Desmond Green is going to have to watch out for. If he gets taken down, Tyson is going to look to finish him right there and then with a ground and pound. And Desmond Green is a well-rounded fighter. He's more of a wrestler than anything. He has good takedowns, pretty good takedown defense as well. He doesn't do too many things wrong, not too many openings on him, which makes a lot of opponents not look too great when they fight him. He did fight some pretty good opponents like Josh Emmett and Gleison Tebow and a couple other veterans in the game as well. It's hard to look good against Desmond Green because, like I said, he doesn't have that many openings. Will Tyson find an opening? It's going to be tough to think he will, but Tyson usually powers through openings and he forces them, which is something Desmond Green hasn't really fought against before. My prediction for this fight, I think Tyson should win this fight. I'm going to go by a 2nd or 3rd round TKO. I can see this going to a decision, but I think Desmond Green's wrestling approach is going to run into a brick wall in this one. I don't think he's going to take down Tyson. And on the feet, I just don't see, unless Green just happens to land some kind of punch on Tyson, I don't see him handling Tyson on the feet. Then we go to Khabib versus Cajun Johnson. Now, this is probably the most mismatched fight on the entire card. And that is not because Cajun Johnson isn't capable. It's because Khabib he's amazing, right? The guy's on a 5-fight win streak. They're all decisions, but his game is very well-rounded. His wrestling and his grappling game replicates Khabib's a little bit, but he's more of a wrestler than Khabib is. Khabib mixes up a lot of different styles, right? Khabib does as well. He is excellent with shooting it low and working straight up to the clinch, but he's also really good with blast doubles and single legs, dumping opponents, all that sort of stuff. He's excellent against the cage to get takedowns, but he will strike a lot more than Khabib does. He's a better striker than Khabib. He has an excellent jab. He has excellent kicks. He has some good spinning kicks. He has excellent round kicks. But it's really the grappling. That's where he is the best at. He's good at keeping position and riding it to a decision. His top control is his best asset. And Cajun Johnson, he is a well-rounded fighter. He has a pretty good takedown defense, and he would like to keep it on the feet. He has long-range strikes. He has a good straight and really good round kicks. But his biggest weakness has been heavy grapplers, right? Most of the way he loses is by submission, and he has been finished a lot. 13 losses, 9 of those are by finish, 5 of those are by submission. So knowing that and knowing that he lost his last fight to Islam Makhachev by a first round submission due to armbar, I'm going to have to go with Khabib on this one. I think it's going to be a pretty dominant fight. I think he's going to take down Johnson, control him. He could go for a submission, but I see him riding into a decision. Then we're going to Andrei Arlovski versus Shamil Abdurakhimov. I know I pronounced that one wrong. This one should be pretty competitive. Arlovski's a bit old in the game, to put it mildly. His chin is pretty much gone. But his defense, striking defense, and takedowns have gotten better in the later stages of his career, which is kind of weird. He's a lot better at covering up now. He's a lot better at countering off of deflecting shots. And his trips in the clinch have been much improved. And he's using them a lot more than he used to. But other than that, he has a pretty good straight right hand. He has a pretty good jab. Doesn't have the power that he used to have. He has a good back fist. Doesn't throw too many kicks, but if they do present themselves, he will throw those. Shamil has a good overhand right. He's faster than Arlovski. He's younger than Arlovski. He has more power. He has a better wrestling game, which Arlovski's going to have to watch out for. And Shamil's biggest punch is the overhand right, which I can see catching Arlovski, especially down the middle, because it's not a looping overhand. It's kind of straight. And his takedowns can come off the jab. His overhand can come off the jab. And I think the speed is going to give Arlovski some problems. But I could see this being pretty close, especially with Arlovski's newfound defense and takedowns. But I will ultimately go with Shamil in this one. I'm going to go by a decision. I could see him finishing Arlovski. But Arlovski has shown to have been pretty safe, even against a guy like Taito Ivasa, who has insane power, able to deflect a lot of shots, defend a lot of shots, using his guard mostly. So I'm going to go with Shamil. I'm going to go by a decision on this one. Then we're going into the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Nikita Krylov. This is pretty interesting because Nikita Krylov used to be in the UFC and they just brought him back. He got cut for, I think, a pretty stupid reason. He lost one fight to Misha Serkunov and he was on a win streak before that and they cut him. Or something happened to him. I can't say they cut him because I don't know exactly what happened. But I don't think he should have left the UFC. Jan Blachowicz, striker, good kickboxer, keeps everything basic, a master at the fundamentals. He has an excellent jab, excellent straight right hand. He has a good counter left hook. And you saw all of these punches in the Jimmy Manuwa fight in his last fight, which a lot of people picked Jimmy Manuwa to win. And he shocked a lot of people, especially with his boxing. And he has excellent kicks. His best asset is probably that jab, but it's also his round kicks, especially the body kicks, like you saw in the Lear Latifi fight. And he has a pretty good wrestling game, which is kind of shocking because he isn't much of a wrestler, but his takedown game in MMA is something you can't overlook. He has a good double leg game, but he doesn't do a whole lot on top, if I'm going to be honest. He kind of just lays on opponents until the end of the round or until he can strike again if it gets stood up. He does have the submission win over Devin Clark, but looking at all of his other fights, he doesn't usually go for the finish. But the thing about Jan Blachowicz and why it's so hard to look good against him is kind of like Desmond Green, but even more so, he doesn't open himself up that much. In the Jimmy Manuwa fight, he did a little bit, but usually not so much. Even against guys like Gustafsson, Manuwa, Latifi, a lot of guys, Corey Anderson, they can't really look amazing against him because they have no openings to look for. It's because he keeps everything so simple. And a guy like Krylov, who is a lot more flashy, it might even be hard for him to find any openings. Now, Krylov, when we look at him, his kicking game and his footwork are a work of art, right? He is probably the best kicker and probably has the best movement in the light heavyweight division. He is very young in his career, only 26 years old still, and he's been fighting for a pretty long time. But he's condensed his game. He used to be extremely wild. He used to throw huge punches out of nowhere. He used to waste a lot of energy. But now everything's condensed. Everything's a lot more basic. And he's a lot more effective now with that. He's not looking for the finish over and over again like he used to, especially in his Fabio Maldonado fight, which was his last fight. Very patient approach. A lot of in and out movement. Constant movement now, which is working with his kicks, his spinning kicks, his front kicks, his round kicks. Everything is so fast. His jab is precise. And his ground and pound is there. His top control is there as well. He will go for submissions if they present themselves. And that is the biggest thing going for him in this one. It's not so much the striking, it's the submission threat from Krylov if it gets to the ground. But the biggest opening on Krylov is that jab. Even a guy like Fabio Maldonado, who is very old in the game and has a very slow jab at this stage, he was able to land almost every jab he threw on Krylov. Krylov doesn't move his head at all. He doesn't get his head off center line. And his guard is always on the sides, right? And even through that, people are able to land left hooks over the top because he doesn't bring them up too much. He's kind of lazy with his defense. And Blachowicz, who has an amazing jab, that's a kind of bad formula for Krylov. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Blachowicz. I'm going to go with the more experienced fighter here. And the jab, I think, is going to land on Krylov over and over again. The kicks are going to be hard to find home on Blachowicz, especially because he is also a great kicker, but he's a lot better defensively with them. The only thing I see going for Krylov here is his submissions. If it gets to the ground, he could land a big, powerful punch, but he way overextends himself when he does that, and he leaves his chin wide open when he throws an overhand. So I'm going to go with Blachowicz. I'm going to go by a decision. And then we go to the main event, Mark Hunt versus Oleksiy Oliynyk. To be honest, I think this is one of the easiest fights to call on the entire card. Mark Hunt, great kickboxer, excellent kicks, some of the best counters in the heavyweight division. Even being the size that he is, he's a lot smaller, or at least a lot shorter than everybody else. He's able to find counters on people very well, and his left hook, his lunging left hook and right uppercut are by far his best weapons. He has a good overhand right and a pretty good straight right hand. Jabs are there to measure distance for himself because he doesn't move a whole lot, but he moves a lot more than Olynyk and even guys that he fought in the past like Derek Lewis, which gives him an advantage. If he's able to move more than his opponent, it's a problem for the opponent. And he has excellent leg kicks, devastating whenever he decides to throw them. And the scariest thing about fighting Mark Hunt is his takedown defense has gotten so much better. And when grapplers fight him and they're forced to stand with him, they make a lot of questionable decisions. And his countering game is so punishing. His control of distance is very underrated. He is so comfortable whenever he's figured out the distance. He'll throw a jab at you and he won't even pick his hands up to block a shot or a counter shot because he knows where he can and can't be hit. Now, Oleksiy Oliynyk is more of a grappler than anything. He has an amazing Ezekiel choke. I mean, he gets it all the time, which is crazy. He pulls guys into mount. He gets it on them. But here's the thing. His striking isn't the greatest. He has okay long punches, but I don't see how he can take down Mark Hunt. And I don't see how he can strike with Mark Hunt. So ultimately, I'm going to go with Mark Hunt in this one. I don't think he can take Mark Hunt's shots. Matter of fact, almost nobody can. So I see Mark Hunt defending the shots, being patient until he sees a counter shot or he's confident enough where he knows he won't be taken down and he'll start opening up on Olynyk. And I see an uppercut landing, knocking Olynyk out. So I'll go with Mark Hunt. I'll go with second round knockout. So those are my predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. For my next video, I might make a breakdown one of the fights on the card. I'm still thinking about it because I am going to do one on the Triple G versus Canelo rematch. But stay tuned. And then after that, of course, it's going to be my podcast. It's going to be on Tuesday. So on Sunday, I am going to leave in my community tab for you guys to reply to questions under there. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.